Other news, President Trump is kicking off his 4-day visit to the Middle East. This is a live look at the royal court in Riyadh, where the president and Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman are meeting key members of each country's delegation. The two leaders are set to hold more formal meetings in which they'll discuss a variety of issues, including the war in Gaza, efforts to dismantle Iran's nuclear program, and ways to keep oil prices down. But the primary focus of the president's trip is to shore up business deals. Later this morning, the president will attend an investment forum with Saudi officials. It comes as the kingdom has committed to a $600 billion investment in the U.S. over the next 4 years. But the president is pushing for a full $1 trillion. David Ignatius, if you could break this down for us.
So, Mika, it's fascinating to see Trump arriving in a kingdom where the wealth and splendor dazzle him. This was his first stop when he became president in 2017. It's not surprising that it's his second stop in this second term. It's a place where he, I think, feels a kind of kinship with the Saudi royalty, has certainly come to the aid of Mohammed bin Salman when he was attacked after playing a role in the killing of my colleague Jamal Khashoggi during Trump's first term. This trip, we're all told, will be about business. The idea that the Saudis, who are really struggling with falling oil prices, will be able to get to $1 trillion level of investment as opposed to the $600 billion they promised strikes me as unrealistic. I would also note that Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and the United Arab Emirates, the other destinations on this trip, have become increasingly important strategically for the United States. These are the places now where meetings take place that are intended to resolve conflicts. In the Ukraine war, Russia and Ukraine sent their representatives to Jeddah in Saudi Arabia, then to Riyadh for key talks. Qatar has hosted almost all of the key negotiations to free the Israeli hostages in Gaza and have a resolution of the war there. The UAE was said to be helpful to the United States as it tried to de-escalate tensions between Pakistan and India. So these are not just economic friends, wealthy and able to invest in the U.S. They're strategic partners. And that, to me, that's a big difference from what we saw 8 years ago during the last trip. That time, Saudis dreamed of having influence. Today, they really do have it, thanks to their role as a mediator.
Well, and you know, David, also, you have, again, the Saudis in their role as a mediator, and the other countries in the middle also, because they've been talking for some time, certainly the Saudis and the UAE, about the rebuilding of Gaza, if that were to ever happen, and taking a more active role in that. Of course, those plans seem to be on the sidelines right now. But it is remarkable how much, as you've said, over the past 8-10 years, the center of power has shifted in the Middle East. And again, you have a trip here, as many people have noted, where an American president's going to the Middle East and not stopping in Israel. What do you read into that?
So I think we see in President Trump a growing frustration with Israel and with Prime Minister Netanyahu, who's been slow, seemingly unable to end the war in Gaza. Trump sent his emissary, Steve Witkoff, finally to have negotiations separately that led to the freeing of the American-Israeli hostage, Idan Alexander. I think Trump is similarly uneasy, unhappy about the pressure he's getting from Israel to consider a military strike on Iran. Trump would rather go for the big deal to cap Iran's nuclear program, even though it doesn't look very different from what he scuttled in 2018 in the so-called JCPOA. But it's, when Trump says America first, he means it. And he means it even in the case of our historically closest ally in the region, Israel. Israel's interests, while powerful, do not, in Trump's mind, supersede those of the United States. An extraordinary example published by the New York Times last night is one of the best stories I've seen in weeks. Details Trump's frustration with the campaign against the Iranian-backed Houthis that his decision after 30 days, just to, that's it, let's declare a victory. He was given a plan for 8 months of military campaign, decided this isn't going anywhere, it's not worth the money, and did it without talking to the Israelis, who were directly threatened by the Houthis. That's a very different command and control environment than I've ever seen. I've been covering the Middle East for 40 years. This really surprised me.
John, let's talk a little bit about the pageantry. We're watching on the other side of our screen this long receiving line of, frankly, rich guys coming to get their 30 seconds with President Trump and with the Crown Prince. Crown Prince greeted President Trump at the airport a short time ago, an honor he did not offer President Biden in 2022 when he arrived. The president's limousine, the Beast, was escorted to the royal court by Arabian horses. The Saudis know how to put on a show. They know how to welcome President Trump. Remember in that visit in 2017 when they projected his face onto the side of the Ritz-Carlton Hotel there.
Yeah, the Saudis created a template that was his. Trump's first trip was May 2017. I was on that trip traveling with the presidential pool. The images of the president and the king were draped on every building as the motorcade went down the highway. On his hotel, the Ritz-Carlton, they put up his face, as you say, with in digital imagery. The same hotel, by the way, that Mohammed bin Salman, the Crown Prince, usually later used to detain his political prisoners. That was the trip of the Orb, where the president and the king and the head of Egypt all stood with it. Yes, they created, the Saudis figured out early, the trick for President Trump is to flatter him, to treat him like royalty, which is what he wanted. And we saw that on that trip. We are seeing it again now. And yes, the White House has said, look, this is about business. We're trying to get deals, the $1 trillion mark, although that seems unlikely. But of course, there are geopolitics that are going to creep in here. The situation in Gaza, the Gulf states will push him to come up with some sort of plan there for the Palestinians. The Iran deal as well. They're going to want some sort of solution there. But right now, as we're seeing the president a short time ago with the Crown Prince, he's strengthening ties to the region, and it's really about economic and business development rather than strategy, Mika.
All right. We'll be continuing to follow this.